There are few nations as famous or infamous as the Vikings. Even though 1,000 years have passed since their time, stories about their deeds still abound. Now, it's true that even the most boring of those stories describe the Norsemen as a violent and impulsive breed. One family, though, stands out even in this crowd. Their history of manslaughter got them exiled several times, and this is weirdly tied to the European discovery of America. Hi, my name is Sebastian. You're watching Mistakes That Changed the World. First, I think a brief introduction of the Vikings is in order. Essentially, for over 2 centuries, their main occupation was raiding, plundering, and stealing from other people. How they got to be like this is a story for another time, but one major factor was their environment. The poor, rocky soil and cold climate of Scandinavia aren't exactly ripe of abundance, which is one of the reasons that pushed the Norsemen to become skilled warriors. And warriors they became. Soon they stroked fear in the hearts of all Europeans from east to west. In such a nation, it takes a lot of skill and willpower to stand out as a violent man. Thorvald Asvaldsson fits that bill. So much so that he was exiled by his own people from Norway and ended up in the westernmost border of the European world. When he left, he took his 10-year-old son too, Eric, and settled on Iceland. His behavior there again forced him to settle further out to a single northern corner of the island. Thorvald eventually died in 970 AD, and his son Eric took over. He earned a nickname, Eric the Red. Some say he was called as such due to his red hair and beard, while others point to his murderous deeds. And indeed, like his father, Eric got himself in trouble. In 982 AD, he killed several of his neighbors in disputes over boundaries and slaves that could have easily been solved peacefully. And that got Eric exiled again. Incredibly though, the man was charismatic enough to attract a group of subjects whom he led further west. Long story short, before he left, Eric gave his setstokker to his neighbor Thorgest for safekeeping. Setstokkers were ornamented pillars of significant mystical value. Once he settled on the island of Uxni, Eric asked his pillars back, but Thorgest refused. So Eric took them back and then killed the men that chased him, an act that led to, you guessed it, Eric's exile from Iceland. So now, he and the men under his leadership set out west to find another place to stay. And they did. Although it was cold and covered with snow and ice, Eric called the place Green Country. Yes, we're talking about Greenland, folks. While it's true that other Norsemen stumbled upon the large island in the west, according to the saga at least, Eric was the one who successfully settled Greenland. And another side note, I hope it goes without saying that we're talking about the European discovery of Greenland, because other folks of the Inuit people already lived there. Anyway, back to the story. Once his exile expired, Eric came back to Iceland and told everyone about his newly found island. Calling the place Greenland would sound more appealing to future settlers, which was paramount to the success of any colony there. His salesmanship worked, and 25 ships set sail to Greenland. Once there, Eric the Red was recognized as the leader of the colony, so at least from this point on, no one could exile him anymore. For a while, the colony prospered, and Eric even raised 4 children. One of those kids was Leif. Norse naming conventions meant that Leif was designated as Leif, son of Eric. In other words, Leif Eriksson. Eric's other child that you need to know about was Freydis Eriksdottir, or daughter of Eric. After becoming an adult, Leif also became a leader and also an explorer. Once he was old enough, he gathered a crew and sailed even further west. It's possible Leif had heard stories about a wealthy land west of the fishermen and traders of Greenland. Other tales say that he was blown off course by strong winds. Regardless, after a surprisingly short journey, the group of Vikings landed in a place that must have seemed like a green paradise compared to icy Greenland. Leif named this new place Vinland, the fertile land. Little did he know that he just discovered America. As usual, the Vikings decided that the land where they had landed was automatically theirs. Leif's men marked their territory by erecting a settlement of stone houses. But of course, Vinland wasn't empty and devoid of humans. There were already people there, Native Americans the Norsemen called Skrællingi, who were angered by the actions of the Vikings and eventually attacked the colony. The natives drove the small group back to their ships they had come on. The warm season was ending too, so the Vikings had to return back to Greenland anyway. This is the first time we encounter Freydis, whose fury would change history. Freydis is presented to us as a heroine fighting in the rearguard, holding off the much larger Native American tribes until the ships could depart. Women, especially the daughters of Viking chieftains, were trained in the use of weapons, so this is not a surprising scene at all. Since the men of a village could be gone on plundering expeditions for weeks at a time, having women be trained in fighting was almost a necessity. Not long after his 2 children returned from Vinland, Eric the Red died and Leif took his place as chieftain. Once becoming the leader, he no longer had the time for expeditions. Nevertheless, Vinland was not forgotten, and they planned another larger expedition to return there. This time there were more ships setting sail westward on a route that was now known. They probably departed together, but the ships sailed at different speeds, and some arrived faster than others. Unfortunately for 2 families, their ship arrived before the one carrying Freydis. One Norse tradition said that on abandoned lands, the first to arrive could choose their homes. Normally, it referred to Saxon and British houses from which the owners fled, but the rule also applied in Vinland. So, when Freydis arrived, a problem arose. She was the daughter of the old king and sister of the new one, in addition to being the heroine of the retreat. Obviously, Freydis had already decided to choose the largest and probably best built of the stone houses, which coincidentally was also the former home of Leif. But the 2 families who had arrived before her had already settled in that house. Naturally, Freydis ordered them to move out, but they refused. The law was on their side. It was probably a heated confrontation and many regrettable things were said, but it all ended with Freydis' personal guards and her husband killing the 2 men who had occupied the house first. It wasn't right, but such a bloody move seemed to be within acceptable bounds for Eric the Red's daughter. Let's not forget that this was around the year 1000, and we're talking about a culture that in many ways was violent. However, this isn't the end of our story. Freydis wasn't pleased with just killing the 2 men. She also ordered the guards to kill the wives and children of her victims. And when her own men refused the order, she took an axe and did it herself. It was a true fit of rage in her family's purest tradition. However, killing women and children was completely beyond the law, even among the Vikings. So, it's obvious that the colony didn't have a promising start. By autumn, everyone had returned to Greenland. But this return put Freydis' brother and her king in an uncomfortable position. By law, she was now a criminal, and like most warrior peoples, the Vikings took their laws very seriously. It was one thing to kill men, a whole other thing to kill entire families. There were never too many Vikings, and mothers and children were highly valued. Normally, Freydis should have been executed, but if Leif would have condemned her, things would complicate in another direction. To avoid a serious crisis between siblings in such an ambitious and violent culture, the law was very strict regarding killing someone from one's own family, which meant that whatever Leif would do, he would also break the law, and in that case there was a good chance he would be removed from power. So a compromise was chosen. Freydis was exiled from Greenland. Then, by decree, no one would ever return to the Vinland colony, and no one would ever speak of it again. In the purest political fashion, the whole incident was swept under the rug. As a result of this decision, the Vikings never returned to Vinland. It would be another 5 centuries until Europe rediscovered the Americas. This story is based on several Viking sagas, but at least in part they hold some truths. So one has to wonder, how different would the world be if the Norse had settled in Vinland and never left? At the very least, Northern Europe, not Spain, would have enjoyed the riches of the new continent. Today's world would have been an entirely different place. And all because, according to the sagas, 1,000 years ago, Freydis had a fit of rage. That was all for today. I hope it was interesting enough to have inspired you to look into it further on your own. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe. You can leave your comments downstairs, and you can also check out my Patreon page if you want to support me. I do hope to see you next time. Bye.